Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're really getting into the weeds on a career that's, well, fascinating because it operates on two parallel tracks.
Definitely.
You've got the brilliant comedic satire, the guy you recognize instantly, right? Al Madrigal.
Yeah.
Especially from The Daily Show.
That sharp, kind of deadpan delivery.
Exactly. But then there's this whole other side. The sources we dug into, they paint a picture of someone who's not just performing, but fundamentally reshaping the business side of comedy.
It really is a story about refusing to be pigeonholed. Creatively, ethnically, in any way, really.
So our mission today is to unpack the whole thing. Alessandro Liborio Madrigal, comedian, actor, writer, producer, the whole multi-hyphenate deal.
And specifically, we want to look at how his background, this really interesting mix of Mexican and Sicilian heritage, how that didn't just fuel his comedy.
Right, which it clearly did.
But also became the driving force behind, building something entirely new. The All Things Comedy Network, ATC.
That dual identity seems absolutely key from the get-go. We often just see the performance, the jokes.
Lower.
But the sources suggest a very deliberate strategy. He took his own experience of being sort of multi-ethnic, feeling like an outsider, maybe to multiple groups, and used that not just for stand-up material, but then he looked at that feeling of exclusion and thought, okay, how do I build something so others don't hit these same walls?
Exactly. And you see that playing out everywhere. His political stuff, sure, but also creating something like the Primos comic book, which is just steeped in this reimagined Mayan mythology. It's incredible.
Yeah, it connects all the dots.
It really does. His career is kind of a blueprint for how you navigate the old system, the traditional industry, while at the same time building your own independent thing.
He didn't just want a seat at the table.
No way.
Yeah.
He built a whole new restaurant, like you said.
Yeah.
And to really get that ambition, we need to go back.
Yeah.
Back to the foundation, which maybe surprisingly is really grounded in San Francisco.
Okay, yeah, let's dig into that foundation because it's not the typical struggling comedian origin story, is it?
Not at all.
So, full name, Alessandro Liborio Madrigal, born July 4th, 1971, San Francisco.
And that heritage, let's nail it down. Father's side, Mexican from Tijuana. Mother's side, Sicilian. So right from birth, he's straddling these two really distinct, powerful cultures.
He grew up in the Inner Sunset District in SF, and this is one of those amazing little details the sources bring out. Comedy was literally in the air. Mike Pritchard, Michael Meehan, successful comics were his neighbors.
Wow, really?
Yeah, so the rhythm, the timing, the business of comedy was happening right there, even before he thought about doing it himself.
That's fascinating. And then look at his education. It suggests a very structured upbringing. École Notre Dame de Victoire.
Right, a private Catholic school. Big emphasis on French language and culture.
So we're talking discipline, languages, structure, not exactly improv 101.
Then St. Ignatius College prep for high school, graduated at 89, University of San Francisco after that.
Again, it doesn't scream, drop everything for open mic night, which makes his first career path even more striking.
Absolutely critical, because for 10 years, a whole decade after college, he wasn't doing comedy professionally at all.
No, he was working in human resources, in a staffing agency run by his family.
And here's the kicker. The detail he always brings up. His main job, his crucial responsibility for years.
This firing people.
Firing people. Can you imagine? Talk about a crash course in high-stakes communication.
It's like the ultimate accidental boot camp for stand-up.
Yeah.
Seriously, think about what that involves.
Okay.
You have to have your script down cold, right? Your reasons.
Yeah.
You need total control. You have to project calm, authority.
Well, dealing with someone who's probably upset, angry, scared.
Exactly. Highly emotional, unpredictable situations. You got to read the room in a split second, know when to talk, when to pause, when to just listen. It's intense interaction.
So it wasn't just paperwork. It was live emotional de-escalation over and over.
That's what he says. He talks about it a lot. Handling those really scary situations, as he put it, just completely wiped out any potential stage fright. For telling someone they've lost their job, facing an audience, even a tough crowd, the stakes just seem lower.
Yeah, what's the worst that can happen? They don't laugh.
Right. Compared to dealing with real human fallout. He basically says it gave him the fearlessness to bomb, to fail publicly, which is essential for a comic.
And he did that for 10 years before finally deciding, okay, comedy full-time. That was 1998.
That decade, that real-world pressure cooker, you could argue that was way more valuable training than any comedy class. It built that unflappable persona we see.
Okay, so that calm, almost structured approach he learned in HR, it comes with him onto the stage.
Definitely.
But his material immediately dives right into the messy stuff, right? The identity complexities. As soon as he hits the circuit, his stand-up is mostly stories.
Yeah, very narrative-driven about his life, his family, and crucially that feeling of confusion, or just the weirdness of being both Mexican and Sicilian in America.
He found that sweet spot pretty quickly, it seems. Observational stuff, satire.
Looking at cultural assimilation, how people act, American culture generally, but always through that multi-ethnic lens.
Started out in the San Francisco clubs, obviously. And he co-founded a sketch group early on.
Yeah, Fresh Robots. That was one of his first ventures.
And the breaks start coming. 2002 seems like a key year. SF Sketchfest with Fresh Robots.
Right.
And then getting into the New Faces showcase at Just for Laughs in Montreal.
Which is huge. That's the industry basically saying, okay, pay attention to this guy.
But with that visibility came complications. This seems to be a recurring theme, especially for artists navigating multiple identities.
Oh, absolutely. The sources really highlight this tension. The industry immediately tried to put him in a box. Latino comic, that's the label.
Okay, for marketing, easy categorization.
But at the same time, he's getting pushback from within the Latino community sometimes. Like, oh, he's not Latino enough, specifically because he didn't speak fluent Spanish.
Wow, that's a tough spot. Damned if you do, damned if you don't. Labeled by one group, policed by another.
It's a classic double bind. And that conflict, that feeling of being caught in the middle, that became the absolute core of his early comedy.
And he weaponized it, basically, turned the criticism into his strength.
Brilliantly. I mean, winning the Best Stand-Up Award at the U.S. Comedy Arts Festival in Aspen in 2004, that was massive validation. From peers, from the industry.
Saying his comedy worked beyond just the label.
Exactly. And that directly led to a talent holding deal with CBS. Things started moving.
Which eventually builds towards that landmark special in 2013, Why is the Rabbit Crying? On Comedy Central.
Yeah, that was a big one. Not just popular, but critically loved. Made year-end best-of lists for places like Westward and The Village Voice.
And the critics noticed how he was doing it, right?
Totally. They pointed out that he wasn't just reinforcing stereotypes, he was deconstructing them, taking the gap between what people expected a Latino comic to be and his actual reality.
And finding the humor in that disconnect.
Yeah, milking incongruity, as one review put it. He acknowledged the label, but only to immediately pull it apart. It was smart.
Taking that personal anxiety about identity and making it universally funny, about how we categorize people.
And he kept refining that with his next big special, the 2017 Showtime one, Shrimp It Ain't Easy.
Right. Tell me about that one.
Well, what's interesting there is the context. They filmed it at the Masonic Lodge at Hollywood Forever Cemetery.
Yeah.
Kind of adds this unique, almost somber vibe.
Unusual choice.
And it was directed by Neil Brennan.
Okay, Chappelle's Show co-creator. Known for his own really raw personal stand-up.
Exactly. So you feel that influence, maybe pushing Madrigal towards even more layered and intimate stuff. Still funny, obviously, but moving maybe further into self-reflection beyond just observational humor, constantly evolving his style.
So he's got the stand-up cred, critical acclaim, and network deal. Naturally, he tries to leverage that into film and TV.
Which brings us right back to those gatekeepers you mentioned.
Yeah.
And his early attempts at sitcoms. They really show how precarious that traditional path can be.
Oh, yeah. We got to talk about the Ortegas. Fox, 2003.
Huge potential, right? Based on a successful BBC show, The Kumars at number 42. Madrigal was the son hosting a talk show from his parents' backyard.
Sounds like a great concept.
It was. They filmed 6 episodes he was starring.
Yeah.
And then Fox just shelved it, pulled the plug before a single episode aired.
Ooh, that's got to be brutal for a comic getting their big break. Starring role, network show, gone.
It says a lot about how little control creators often have in that system. Your fate is entirely in the hands of executives.
And that wasn't a one-off, was it? The CBS deal led to a few roles, too.
Yeah, a bit of a pattern there for a while. He was Jesus in Welcome to the Captain, lasted 5 episodes.
Yeah.
Then a more substantial role. Dennis Lopez in Gary Unmarried. That ran for 20 episodes, so more stability.
But still supporting roles, and the shows themselves didn't quite stick.
Right. He's killing it on stage, getting all this acclaim, but translating that into durable TV success within the existing structure is proving really challenging.
He did find a better foothold with NBC's About a Boy. Played Andy, 28 episodes. Got an Imagen Award nomination for that in 2014.
That was a good run. And then he did something kind of different, playing a comedian, but in a period drama.
Right, I'm Dying Up Here. The 70s dark comedy about the LA comedy scene.
Yeah, executive produced by Jim Carrey. That show explored how rough and competitive that world was. Kind of exploitative, even.
So for Madrigal, who'd been fighting against being boxed in,
Playing a character, Edgar Manny Martinez, who's navigating that toxic hierarchical system, it must have felt pretty resonant. A bit of meta-commentary on his own struggles, maybe.
but the role that really put him on the map for millions, the one that defined his public persona for years, had to be The Daily Show.
No question. Joining Jon Stewart's show in May 2011, the senior Latino correspondent.
That title itself is kind of a wink, isn't it? Given his earlier struggles with the Latino comic label.
Totally. Using the label ironically for sharp political satire. And the story of how he got hired is pretty amazing, according to the sources.
It wasn't the usual long audition grind.
No. Adam Lewitt, one of the producers, recommended him. Madrigal performed a specific bit at a club, a piece about Texas Representative Debbie Riddle.
Oh, I remember this controversy. She had this bill targeting employers who hired unauthorized immigrants.
Right. And this was the satirical gold. The bill had this massive carve-out, this unbelievable exception, specifically for domestic workers.
The hypocrisy. Punish businesses unless it affects hiring help for your own home.
Exactly. Perfect Daily Show fodder. Madrigal did his bit on that, read it for Stewart.
And Stewart hired him basically on the spot.
That's the story. It was just a perfect fit. Madrigal's measured, satirical style clicked instantly with the show's whole ethos.
And that platform was huge. He even won a Genesis Award in 2014 for one of his segments, Blowing the Whistle on Whistleblowers. He became a major voice.
For sure. But even while doing The Daily Show, he kept pushing into film. You see the range expanding.
Yeah, comedies like Night School in 2018.
But then switching gears completely for drama, like playing Dan opposite Ben Affleck in The Way Back in 2020.
And jumping into the superhero craze with Morbius in 2022 as Agent Rodriguez.
Right, showing versatility. And he's still very active in traditional TV, starring as Oscar Rivera on Lopez vs. Lopez on NBC, renewed for season 2. So he's definitely still playing the game within the studio system.
He is. But the real pivot, the thing that fundamentally changes his career narrative, that happens back in 2012, while he's still at The Daily Show.
Ah, yes. This is the core of the deep dive, isn't it? All those years dealing with canceled sitcoms, the identity policing, the frustration of maybe having your work shelved.
It seems like it led to a realization.
A huge one. Instead of just trying to get hired by the gatekeepers, he decided to become an owner, to bypass them altogether.
Okay, so let's shift gears here. Forget the performance for a second. This is pure business strategy, economics. 2012, Al Madrigal and Bill Burr launch All Things Comedy, ATC, October 1st.
And crucially, this wasn't just, hey, let's make a podcast network for our buddies. This was conceived as a direct challenge to how things were usually done.
How so? What was the core difference?
The mission statement essentially was to be an artist-owned cooperative. We need to unpack that because it's the whole point. Back then, early podcasting days, and honestly still often today, if a comedian signed with a traditional network, the network would usually take a huge chunk of the ad revenue, like 50, 60, sometimes even 80%.
Wow.
And often they demand ownership of the show itself, the intellectual property, or at least exclusive licensing rights for a long time.
So the comic provides the content, the talent, the audience draw, but gets a minority share and loses control of their own creation long term.
Very much. ATC was designed to flip that script entirely. As a cooperative, the fundamental rule is the comedians retain 100% ownership of their IP, their show, their back catalog, everything.
Okay, that's huge. So how does ATC make money?
It functions more like a collective bargaining unit. They handle the ad sales, the marketing, distribution, leveraging the power of the whole network.
Yeah.
But the vast majority of the revenue generated by a specific podcast goes directly back to that podcast's creator.
So it treats the comedian like an actual business owner, not just hired talent.
Exactly. And the model clearly resonated. The growth was explosive. By 2014, just 2 years in, they reportedly had like 6 dozen members, over 50 podcasts already.
That fast. That shows you how much pent-up demand there was among comics for something like this.
Absolutely. And today, sources say ATC hosts over 50 major podcasts, pulling in close to 5 million listeners every month. That's real economic clout, and its power directed back to the artists.
The initial lineup really helped cement it too, right? Having Bill Burr's monster hit, the Monday Morning Podcast, as an anchor.
Definitely. Plus shows like the Long Shot Podcast, Ari Shafir's Skeptic Tank early on. It attracted serious talent because the deal was just better for them.
And they didn't just stick to podcasts. They expanded. ATC Records.
Yeah, launched in March 2014, releasing comedy albums for people like Sam Tripoli, Brian Scalaro, Jackie Kashian. Same principle. Control the distribution, control the financial destiny across different formats.
It feels like they were building an entire ecosystem.
It's a good way to put it. Madrigal and Burr even co-host that monthly All Things Comedy Live podcast, featuring comics like Sinbad, Doug Benson. It fosters community, mutual support, very different vibe from the often cutthroat nature of traditional Hollywood.
Now let's tie this back to Madrigal's personal story, the whole not Latino enough thing. How did ATC become part of that narrative?
This is really key. He's been explicit about it. He sees ATC as a mechanism, a tool for improving representation, specifically for Latin American voices in media.
How does that work in practice?
Well, think about it. If you build your own independent platform, you don't need to pitch your idea for a show featuring diverse voices to mainstream executives who might not get it or might pass.
You just launch it yourself on ATC.
Exactly. You bypass the gatekeepers entirely. And you see that reflected in their roster. They host major Spanish-language podcasts like Leyendas Legendarias or El Dollop,
giving direct access to potentially huge audiences that might be underserved by traditional American media.
Precisely. It removes those linguistic and cultural barriers often imposed by conventional distribution networks. It's like the ultimate creative comeback to the people who tried to define him early on.
When they wouldn't give him the space he wanted in their system.
He built a whole new system where hundreds of artists, including many Latin American creators, could define themselves freely. And his influence keeps growing. That overall deal he signed with CBS Studios in 2021.
Right.
It means he's now working from the inside, too, developing projects within the traditional structure while also running this powerful independent cooperative on the outside. He's playing both sides.
Okay, so he builds this incredible economic engine with ATC, securing independence for herself and others. Then what? He seems to turn his focus back very deliberately to those core identity questions.
Yeah, but now moving beyond just stand-up jokes, he starts using longer formats to really own and explore his cultural narrative. First up is that documentary, Half Like Me.
2015 on Fusion. This felt like a direct follow-up to all that earlier criticism, didn't it?
Absolutely. It wasn't just stand-up about identity. It was an investigation, a personal quest.
The premise was him trying to get closer to his Mexican roots.
Right.
Leading up to a family reunion in Tijuana.
Yeah, using the documentary format to explore different aspects of Latino culture in the U.S. It was funny, obviously it's him, but it was also a genuine attempt to connect with that side of his heritage more deeply.
And it landed well, critically speaking.
Oh, yeah. The LA Times called it a critic's pick. The AV Club found it solid and thought-provoking. And Madrigal himself mentioned something really telling.
What was that?
He said people started contacting him, educators wanting to use the special in their classrooms.
Wow. When your comedy documentary becomes teaching material?
You know, you've struck a chord much deeper than just entertainment. It really resonated with people grappling with similar questions of belonging.
So Half Like Me tackled the real-world complexities, the anxieties, but then he took this idea of reclaiming identity somewhere totally unexpected into fantasy, into comic books with Primos.
This is where it gets really interesting, I think. His love for superheroes, which is well documented, merges directly with his mission for representation.
He wasn't just consuming superhero stories, he wanted to create them, specifically Latino superheroes.
Right. He created and wrote the Primos series, launched in 2022, and he teamed up with serious players. AWA Studios, Axel Alonso, the former editor-in-chief of Marvel Comics. This wasn't a vanity project. It was a serious push into the comics industry.
And the motivation was explicit. More Latino stories, more Latino characters, more Latino voices in that genre.
Exactly. And the concept of Primos. It's just this incredible act of, like, creative myth-making.
Tell me about the plot. Primos means cousins, right?
Yeah. It brings together three distant cousins who find out they share this ancient, hidden lineage. They're descendants of, get this, spacefaring Mayans.
Spacefaring Mayans, okay.
Tracing their ancestry directly back to the historical Mayan king, Janab, or King Janab, and their destiny. To save the world from this ancient, destructive ancestor who harnessed alien tech centuries ago.
Whoa, okay, so choosing Mayan history, King Janab, that feels incredibly deliberate.
Oh, it's a powerful statement. It takes indigenous history, often relegated to museums or seen as past, and makes it the source of futuristic cosmic power. Okay. It completely flips the script on any narrative of cultural inferiority.
It's reclaiming history and turbocharging it with sci-fi.
And here's the detail that ties it all back together beautifully, connecting to those early, not Latino enough criticisms.
What's that?
Every single issue of Primos is published simultaneously in both English and Spanish.
So the guy criticized for not speaking Spanish is now creating this epic mythology rooted in his heritage.
And ensuring it's immediately accessible to Spanish-speaking readers. No waiting for a translation. It's instantly shared canon for both audiences.
It's like the ultimate artistic response. You question my connection to this culture. Fine, I'll invent a universe where that very culture holds the key to saving humanity, and I'll deliver it in both languages.
He's literally writing new myths where his roots are the source of galaxy-spanning heroism, defining the narrative on his own epic terms.
And it mirrors his own life, doesn't it? The complexity he embodies professionally is right there personally, too.
Absolutely. He's third-generation Mexican on his dad's side. But then he points out his wife is Korean Greek.
Meaning his kids are, what, quarter Mexican, quarter Sicilian, quarter Korean, quarter Greek.
Exactly. Talk about defying easy categorization.
Yeah.
He lives that blended identity.
Yeah.
He's living proof that culture is fluid, it's additive, it evolves. It's not some fixed box that media companies want you to check.
So let's wrap this up. Thinking about everything we've covered, what are the big takeaways for someone listening? What does Al Madrigal's story really show us?
Well, it's clear his path is way more complex and, frankly, more strategic than just being a funny guy who got famous.
Right. We started with him in HR, that surprising job, firing people, which paradoxically gave him this incredible stage presence, this immunity to fear.
Then he took that calm confidence, that sharp satirical mind, and used the Daily Show platform to turn his personal identity struggles into really pointed political commentary for a national audience.
But he didn't stop there. He saw the limits of just working within the existing system.
Exactly. The frustration from those canceled shows, being typecast. He didn't just complain. He channeled it. He co-founded All Things Comedy.
Building that revolutionary economic model, artist ownership, creative control, bypassing the old gatekeepers, he became both a creator and a business leader, a mogul, really.
And then, armed with that independence, he revisited the very identity labels others tried to put on him, first through the personal exploration of Half Like Me.
And then completely transcending it by creating Primos, building this fantastical world rooted in his heritage, creating the representation he wanted to see.
It just demonstrates this incredible power you gain when you decide to own your own narrative. Across every single platform available to you, stage, business, documentary, even fantasy comics.
He took the Latino comic label, redefined it, owned it, and then blew it up into something far bigger and more interesting.
Remember, early on, the critique was not Latino enough, partly because he didn't speak Spanish fluently.
Right.
Now, he's a co-founder of a major comedy network actively promoting Spanish language content, and he's created a blockbuster potential comic universe centered on Mayan space royalty, available simultaneously in English and Spanish.
Which really brings us to a final thought, something for you, the listener, to chew on. Consider this. What kind of power, what kind of maybe revolutionary act is it when you take the very thing used to criticize you, the very reason they said you didn't belong?
Like not fitting a narrow definition of your own culture.
And you don't just refute it, you use that exact cultural history, Mayan kings, ancient lineage, to invent an entire universe, complete with intergalactic technology, effectively rewriting or reclaiming that history on your own terms and planting it firmly within the popular imagination, within the high fantasy canon itself.